Welcome to a very special live stream, guys. I'm your host, Teladiaplays, and we are going to be doing an interview with Comics League. So, without further ado, let's bring on him. Let's bring him in, and obviously, we're going to bring on his intro, of course.
Hello,
Hello,
hello.
hello. Welcome on in. Yes, this is going to be very exciting. This is the first time that I'm actually doing an interview with the co-host. Um, and just to talk about the channel, and obviously we can ask questions and whatnot. Um, and just the behind the scenes stuff. So, like, obviously, I know it's 4 years ago, so there's a lot to digest.
Yes,
But
there is. It's been a really crazy journey.
it's been a crazy journey for you, and we know, you know, how long it's been since the Snyder Cut and everything.
hmm
Um, what's up,
Topeka.
Pika? Hey, how you doing? But yeah, today is going to be very interesting. But let's talk about your channel, right? What actually inspired you to do YouTube?
All right. Well, so what had happened was, at the time, I was always down on creating a podcast, but honestly, I didn't know what to do because I didn't want to do it on politics because for obvious reasons, and
Yes.
so I didn't really know what else to do. So the pandemic hits, and I didn't really have anything to do. So I'm going to the dentist's office one day,
Mhm.
and I know it just seemed like a regular day. By the way, that day was May 20th, just indicating what
Are
happened.
you are you sure it's not May 19th?
No, it's May 20th. So I rolled in to the dentist office, unaware of what was going on in the internet world.
Yes.
So I get back in the car after the dentist office. I'm checking Facebook, swiping, swiping. Then I see that Jurassic Park meme that SOB did it. So I'm like, well, this is it. And it's on a DC page. So I'm like, interesting. So I'm swiping through, and then I see the black and white Wonder Woman poster that says Zack Snyder's Justice League HBO Max 2021. And I was like, wait, what? So I get home and I'm immediately like, lad, get on FaceTime. We have to talk about this right now. So we start talking about it, and I'm like, interesting. That's it. Right. We should do a podcast about this. And before it was just an audio only podcast on Spotify and Anchor and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And what really inspired the YouTube thing is that I was like, okay, so we have it's growing and it's working pretty well. I see people having great success on YouTube. I might as well give that a shot. So I uploaded a few of the YouTube videos. And I started doing like YouTube audio, but before we did StreamYard, Lad and I would record on Zoom,
Yeah.
and then what would happen is then it got some traction, but I was stuck at like 32 subscribers for like the first, I think it was like 1 to 2 years of the YouTube channel. And so it wasn't really getting that much growth. I mean, occasionally I'd have a big like at the time 100 views was considered big for us.
Right.
So
Yeah.
so then I started going, okay, you know what? Let me try this. Let me try doing a collab with someone. Let me see if that works. So I collabed with Wes from Thinking Critical. He's one of the big comic book YouTube channels. And that's when, like, for one thing, I got more than 32 subscribers from that. And that's what started all the momentum, like, going through. And then from there, I got like Max Priestley, old man Nick from the Phoenix Press, you, all that stuff springs from that first collab.
Yeah. Like I remember, like how I met you. It was through somebody else. We're not going to say his name for obvious
Mhm.
reason. Um, but yeah, just talking about Gotham when I was like, oh yeah, I got some news at Gotham Knights. Dazzle was like, oh yeah, why don't you come on the show? So I came on and talked
Yeah.
about it.
Nick and I were like, should we let him on? And he and I were like, oh, all right, fine.
Yeah, and it's like ever since then, we've never looked back.
Yeah.
Um, but the one thing I'll say though is like gaming with you on Suicide Squad or even whether it's Spider-Man or whatever it is, it's always been entertaining
Yep.
because it's always been so much fun to do stuff like, content with you. Even whenever we cover comics, like whenever it was like, oh, we should do comics, and you're the first one to say, cover Super Wonder. Super Wonder
Because
does
here's the
well.
thing. This goes back to when it was just an audio only podcast. I happened to notice, okay, wait a second here. So if I cover Super Wonder or Zack Snyder stuff, yeah, that's why I peak. I met him. Tevye was doing a live stream on the finale of Young Justice, and that's how I met Pika. But anyway,
Hmm.
so I noticed something very interesting. When I cover Super Wonder or when I cover Zack Snyder, I always get the most views and engagement. So that's what really inspired me to go heavy into that direction. I mean, to the point where hell, I now have an entire show devoted to Super Wonder.
Yeah, I was just like, when you told me, oh, cover Super Wonder does well in YouTube, you weren't
Technically,
wrong.
because we were covering Super Wonder, that's how we met Rob from Comic Explain. So
Well, it was like when you told me to do it, I was like, okay. And then Rob from Comics Explained comes on the channel, I'm
we
like,
were like, wait, is that really him?
yeah, it was like, wait, is that really him? Um, and and what makes it even more interesting is the fact you've had more interviews, not only with Rob Explained, sorry, Comics Explained, but you've had interviews with Sam Liu, you've
Chuck Dixon, the
had
inventor of
people,
Bane, Mike Barron. By the way, shout out
yeah,
to Nick from the Phoenix Press for setting that up. I've had it with Gabe El Taib, a lot of comic book professionals, which is always kind of weird because I'm like, I read your work, or in Sam case, I watched your work. So it's like, it's always
yeah,
strange on that.
it's also like it's like I said, when I first looked at you, I was like, yo, dude, your channel's gonna blow up, and it did. You get 2 subscribers per day,
Mm-hmm.
and I remember you telling me that, and I was like, yes, yep,
Roughly
and
two per day, yeah.
yeah, roughly 2 per day. And we made a wager, guys. We said this was last year. If Jared meets the 1,000 subscriber goal, he would
Before
have
the
to.
end of last
And the
year.
thing-
Just want to be clear
do-
on that.
Yeah, before the end of last year, he would have to do a pro Wonderbat stream on YouTube,
And
meaning
boy,
he would have to cover.
was I happy I didn't reach that goal.
And he was lucky he got away with it. But when I reached 1,000, I was it five. I think it was 500 or 1,000. He made me do Super Wonder, and I've never looked back since. So I was grateful for that.
Yeah, I told you for some because here's the thing about it, and I noticed this doing the show is that the thing about covering Super Wonder content is that not a lot of channels cover exclusively that, and partly out of fear because if you question the Superman fan base in any way, they will come at you like a pack of rabid dogs. So at that point, Britt and I were like, when I saw the returns of Super Wonder Legacy, I was like, okay, there is a legit. Because here's the thing about that with Legacy, there is no exclusive podcast just for Super Wonder.
Nowadays, and you're the first to do it.
We're always such pioneers. Always such pioneers. Hey,
Revel-
Ruthie.
you're re- Hey Ruth, how you doing? Welcome on in. And yes, guys, if you don't know, Ruth and I are planning to do a movie night. Hopefully next weekend. Um, for Lego Batman the movie, and it's a members thing. But Ruth will be there on the panel as we're going to be watching along Lego Batman the movie.
Batman
Uh,
doesn't do ships.
No, I'm
no,
not playing. I'm not playing the clip because I don't
no.
want to.
That's why I did it. There you go.
Yeah. But there is something I wanted to ask you, Jared.
Yeah. What's
What
up?
got you into what got you into gaming?
Gaming. Well, Halo, really. It's like well, actually, at first it was Star Wars Battlefront 2 because
Yeah.
this was back. I'm going to date myself here. This is back when Blockbuster was a thing. So I
Oh
used to
yeah.
go there all the time and rent to like games and stuff. And so when I was playing Battlefront, that was like my favorite game for so long. And then someone tells me, "Have you heard of Halo?" And I was like, not really, no. So I checked it out, and I've never looked back since. Never ever. So I was playing Halo, and then in terms of like comic book gaming, it was really the Arkham games was really what introduced me to the world of superhero gaming. And it was either that or Superman Returns, which is why I talk about that game so much, because that had some good elements for a Superman game. So
Oh yeah,
there was like a lot of stuff getting in there. Yes, Randy, Super Wonder does get more buzz than Clovis because Clovis is boring.
of course, of course, of course that is. Brandon, you got some good taste in ships.
Thank you. I do. It gets
Yes,
attention, so there you go.
yeah. Um, so you were, I know you said you Halo and Arkham, and
Call of
were you ever
Duty.
were you ever interested in fighting games like Injustice?
You know, it's kind of funny. So that was just so this was around the time where I was moving and I
Yeah,
was going out and a buddy of mine were in GameStop and one of my closest friends had said, have you heard of like Injustice? Because it's like superhero games, but you fight them. So I was like, okay, no, but I'll try it out. So it was there for like dirt cheap. So I picked it up. That was my first introduction to Deathstroke as a character. And that was like my main character. I would destroy everyone with Deathstroke.
oh, and Ruth has got a question for you. Question: if Jared could go on a date with any superhero, who would he be with, and where would he take them?
I think we all know which superhero I would go on a date with. It's Wonder Woman. And probably, let's see, where could you take Wonder Woman? That's a good question. Since she doesn't really care about extravagant stuff, I don't have to worry about spending a lot. Probably a walk on the beach. There you go. A beach day with Wonder Woman.
Walk on the beach. Okay, that's interesting. Pika says, "Try have it happen when I'm awake."
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Pika, we'll let you know what the schedule is for that movie night uh next week, but it's definitely a thing. Um, it's definitely gonna happen. With me and Ruth gonna be
Mm-hmm.
taking command on that.
Yes,
Uh,
no, Chloe is boring, Pika. Chloe is boring because they keep telling the same story over and over and over again.
yeah, over and over and over again. And she's a damsel in distress.
Yep, I said, you know, it's kind of funny. So speaking of that, so I put out that Lois is useless video, my very first anti-Lois video.
Right, yeah.
That was the first video where I caught heat, but it was like from like randos and stuff. And even Brit at the time was like me because okay, so here's a story about how I met Brit. This is actually a very interesting story. So this was like channels growing and all that. Then this is after I started producing a lot of Super Wonder content. I get this random email from someone saying, "Hey, I see that you cover a lot of Super Wonder stuff. Would you cover it on like fictions and stuff?" So I was like, all right, she is a viewer. I might as well check it out. So I got added to the Super Wonder Discord, and so it's kind of
Wait,
interesting
wait,
there.
wait, 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 wait. There's a Discord?
Yes, there is.
When did this happen?
Many years ago, as a matter of fact, it existed for a long time. So I went to the Discord and I was hanging out. And then I see because I had read a few in the past, so I was like, I was familiar with the content. Then I see so then I particularly read by someone named Night Sky Wonder. So I was like, okay, there you go. Then I saw someone identify herself as Night Sky Wonder.
Yeah.
So I was like, hey, I love your stuff and stuff. And then we started like chatting about it. Little did I know is that it would lead to all of this. Because let me put it this way, Legacy is a year in development. In other words, because we kept trying to find a time when we could both record. And then obviously it happened. And you know, it's kind of funny. The very first episode of Super Wonder Legacy, that was the first time we had actually talked, not on text. That was our
Wow.
first verbal interaction ever.
Wow, that's very interesting and that's very cool that you met her through a Discord
A
server.
random ass email, and I was like, "Oh, what? Okay, there." And that's like 3 years. Man, I've known her for 3 years. Jeez.
Wow, that's awesome, as Rufus said.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yes. But I will say this though, Jared. Like, I was watching your content. I really enjoy your content, and like
Thank you.
even before we covered, even before we collabed together, like I used to watch your old stuff too, and I was just like, you know what? Yeah, this guy's got the chops. This guy's got what it takes to be one of the greats.
Ah, thank you.
And it's true. Um, that's why you're networking with people like Sil Abdul and
Yep.
people
Sam
like
frickin' Liu, after all.
Sam Liu, and you've had we've had Mikey's son on the channel, and Mikey's interacted with you, and
Hmm.
you know through me, and you've also had interactions with you've also asked Josh Herrera and all these different people. Like it was and Rhea. Rhea's also been a pro
Hmm.
supporter of your channel. And Mad
Hmm.
Max, that's another person we've
Mad
had.
Max, yeah, exactly. I love
Yeah,
Max. That dude's
yeah,
awesome.
Max. We've had
About
Max on the channel.
99% of the content creators that I have collabed with in the past are guys I had watched when I was starting out. So that's the other weird thing is like now I'm like a regular guest on channels that I had watched before, and that is like really weird. Yes,
Yeah,
thank you.
yeah, it's crazy,
Fun
but
fact about that: before the new
uh,
52 happened, DC was going to be shut down because the sales were so low.
wow.
They would have shut it down and licensed out the comic. So Warner Brothers and AT&T told DC do something to like boost sales up. That turned into the new 52. So you know what? Our initiative saved DC.
That's interesting. That is very, very interesting to say the least. When you
Mm-hmm.
hear something like this, that DC was about to close its doors if it wasn't for the set, if it wasn't for the new 52.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I wanted to ask you this, right? Obviously, I know your love for New 52. Besides the New 52, what has been your favorite comic run?
Green Lantern, like
No, I
because
mean Superman. I mean Superman or Batman.
Superman comic in terms of outside of the new 52? That is an
Yeah.
excellent question. As a matter of fact, I'm looking back to my thing. Probably a lot of my favorite stuff was like in terms of like modern stuff that I've liked. I like the Warworld saga, and that's awesome. And I will be covering why the Warworld saga is awesome at one point because that is like incredible storytelling. Probably outside of the new 52, I would have to say like Secret Origin by Jeff Johns is like amazing, particularly the way that story is like framed by Taladia. Have you completed the story yet?
Of
Secret Origin.
I bought the comic. Remember?
No, but I mean, have you read the whole thing yet? I'm asking for a specific. Oh,
Uh,
okay. So, but the point
no.
is, there's something in that story, and I'll talk about this later after you've read it, so I don't spoil it. But there's something in that storyline that like book ends it so well, and I'm like, okay, that's actually really well done. So there's that. There's All Star Superman, obviously.
Obviously, All Star Superman, of course.
Honestly, Batman Superman Apocalypse with Supergirl. Because first off, you got Michael Turner's art. It was kind of funny. I watched the movie first before reading the comic. So it's like
Wow.
whenever I read the comic, those voices are playing in my head.
Okay, that's cool. Like you watched the movie before you got the comic.
Yeah,
How
but
did you get?
what? Go ahead.
How did you start comic collection? How did it become an
Well,
addiction for you?
here's the thing. So I always had like a very small comic collection because what had happened was when I first moved to where I currently live, I was taking a comic book drawing class. I'm not an artist or anything like that. I just it took me
Yeah.
to get out of the house. So what had happened was, um, obviously in class we would talk a lot about comics. So I was like, okay, I'll pick up some books and try it out. This is around the time the new 52 had just happened. In fact, the week that happened was the week they announced that Superman and Wonder Woman were a couple. Because I remember I'm randomly cycling through Facebook, and then all of a sudden I see like I think it was like a CBR article talking about it, and I was like, okay, that is actually really cool. So I picked up my first trade, which was Trinity War in the Jeff Johns Justice League run, and then so I started reading that, and I loved it. Then obviously I picked up the Charles Soule Superman and Wonder Woman books, and
Yeah,
so I kept collecting throughout the new 52,
52. Mhm.
and then Rebirth happened. I
Ah,
started off liking it. There was some stuff I liked. Then I started to read because the problem with Rebirth, particularly the Superman and Wonder Woman books, and the writers have been very open about this, it's a lot of screw the new 52 and all of its fans. So what had happened was I like dropped out of it. I was like, nope. You know what? I was going to college at the time, so I was like, you know
yeah.
what? I don't have the time for this. I'm not interested in a hobby that's going to blast me. That would last until the Snyder Cut was announced. So I was like, see, I got out in 2016, 2020. So 4 years I was out. I, I kept in touch on like what the story's doing, but I wasn't reading. Then the Snyder Cut happens, and then I decided, okay, you know what? I'll read it. I'll go through my books again. So
Mhm.
I'm reading, and then like a sack of hammers, it hits me why I love this stuff so much, and that's also why I got back and I started Comics League because I realized, hey, you know what? I love this stuff for so long. I've loved this stuff. I might as well just talk about it and spread that with people.
I was just gonna ask you, how does it, like, obviously, like, you started collecting comics and whatnot. How much all the comics together cost you in total?
Normally, I would collect like trades, so it was like 15 to $20 each. I wasn't really an omnibus guy until actually fairly recently. So it was like, okay, I'll just get like a couple of trades. Because the thing about the trades is that I
Yeah.
didn't have to like read parts of the story. I would just get like a full arc. So it's like when I first read Superman Wonder Woman, it was as a full arc. And occasionally I would pick up like single issues every now and then, but it would mostly be trades. It was kind of funny. I had like a very small collection. In fact, I actually have an old photo of like how small my collection was that I can pull
Yeah,
up.
yeah, I would love to see that.
Yeah, hang on. I'm pulling up the photos on my computer.
While
But
he's
yeah,
doing that, while he's
but yeah,
doing that,
and but yeah, it wasn't until 2020 when I really got into this stuff.
right. While Jared is looking for that picture, if any of you guys do want to ask Jared more questions, make sure you put them in the chat because Jared and will answer your questions. That way, the community is interacting with us, and you guys can ask wonderful questions to him. If you guys don't know what Jared's all about, then this is a good example for you.
Interrogate me. Go. But the other
Interrogate
thing
him.
is like I was still occasionally I would collect trades, but here's the thing: I was collecting Halo comics. I would collect Halo trades. It wasn't superhero stuff for me, and if I were picking up comics, it wasn't superhero stuff. It was just Halo stuff. Snyder is what got me back into collecting superhero comics.
Yes. Um, but I feel like the Snyderverse kind of saved you, I think, isn't it?
Oh yeah. I would not. This channel would not. My channel would not exist were it not for Zack Snyder's Justice League being announced and coming out.
Imagine, imagine the fact that when Zack Snyder released the Snyder Cut, who would imagine you watching the film over 10 times?
16 at this point. But you know what's kind of
Yeah,
funny?
yeah,
When I say life changing, I literally mean life changing. Literally that.
and it's like as we've covered every
All
Snyder
right.
film
So
to
hang on.
date.
So here's what my comic collection used to be. Okay, so it's just so actually I'll add it. So it was this.
Let me. Ooh,
Here's some action figures I had, and that.
wait, go back.
This shelf
Yeah. Why is there a Rebirth Superman?
because at the time I liked Rebirth until I picked up on how stupid it was. Although I will say there were some good Rebirth books. Rebirth Aquaman was freaking dope. And then this was all the collectibles as well for superhero stuff. It was just this. That's it.
That was it. Oh wow.
And then actually I can show you this. This is what the streaming setup used to look like. It was just this. All right, hang on. This is what the OG days of Comics League was. I keep forgetting I can add stuff. Just that.
Are you kidding me?
It was just that on a small table in this room, but a very small table. I used to have my mic there. I would have a camera on top of there, and then I had like a dual and triple monitors.
Oh, so you do what I do, which is have a TV as a monitor.
Yeah, yeah.
Smart.
All my stuff is like old office computers and stuff.
Yeah, that's a really smart move.
I still
Uh,
use those. By those monitors in the pictures are the same ones I still use to this day.
wow, interesting. So guys, there you see some origins of Comics League, guys. There's some background you get.
Very humble origins. Very humble
Very
origins.
yes, very early days of Comics League. Now I've got to ask you, were you ever into anime? Anime like
I
manga
was
and
into
stuff like
anime
that.
as it relates to Halo because it was like I wasn't really an anime guy. It was more like, is there a Halo animated thing? Okay, I'll watch that. I watched that. I watched Black Widow and Punisher. Avengers Confidential was the superhero anime I watched. But besides that, no, not really at the time.
You haven't watched any of like the X-Men anime or
I hadn't watched that until until like as of like a couple of years ago, I think. But yeah, I have watched that now. Is just at the time I was never really an anime guy.
right? Okay, that's uh that's very interesting. I thought you'd be watching all the stuff like from like anime type of
I was watching all the
style.
movies, all the live action movies, because that's where I started. Is like my first exposure to Superman and Batman was the Reeves movie and the Keaton movie. That's it.
Now I gotta ask you this question, because considering you watch the Halo stuff and recently watched the X-Men anime, have you watched Batman Ninja?
Yes, I have. My gosh, that BS movie. The minute it lost me, the minute that bats and monkeys combined to make a bat mech. That's like they legit make Batman out of monkeys and bats. It's the most outrageous thing ever.
Yes. And Randy says Lois Lane is not a good character if you have to consistently have to undermine other characters
Yeah.
uh to make it relevant.
And by the way, when I saw Batman Ninja, here's the thing. I thought it was okay, it's going to take place in feudal Japan. It was going to show what if Batman existed then. I didn't expect it to be freaking time travel.
Yeah. It was like Batman goes back in time to feudal Japan and
Mhm.
becomes Lord Batman.
Such a wasted potential of a movie. Oh gosh.
I mean, he had great voice
It
talent
had
though.
good voice actors, but the rest of it I was like, what the heck am I watching?
I mean, one of my friends is actually a huge Batman Ninja fan. He's actually badgered Warner Brothers
Is it
Games.
perp?
No, he's actually badgered Warner Brothers Games to make a Batman Ninja video game.
That would actually be not that bad, actually.
Like he's been like saying to, he's been pitching at them, saying, "Look, guys, make a Batman game, make a Batman Ninja game, feature Japan, And I'm just like, oh my god, I
They're
can't
never
believe
gonna do
every
that.
time, I, even though it's like, every time when he meets Warner Brothers, whether it's Rocksteady, whether it's WB Games Montreal, he's always pitched the idea of Batman Ninja, and I'm just like, wow.
Mhm.
Um, Pika says DC should adapt Batman Child of Dreams instead.
It could. But so where the Snyder stuff came from was
Yeah,
a family and I were taking a road trip to Disney World one day, and my
yeah.
mom was like, because the other thing I'm really into is military history. So my mom was like, Jared, you got to see this 300 movie. It's really, really cool. So I popped it in. I was like, oh, this is dope. Then obviously when I saw the trailer for Man of Steel and it said from the director of 300, I was like, come again?
Like, how how did it feel knowing that Zack made the greatest trilogy of all time?
Well, yeah. And that's why I'm a Superman fan, because again, what Zach did, he breaks down the characters to their fundamental core, shows you why they're great, and then builds them back up. Because before, I was more of a Batman fan. I thought Superman was a little dweeb. Then I saw Man of Steel and read the New 52. And I was like, that's why this character's so cool.
Yeah, like Superman for me has always I've always loved Superman from the time um what's it called from the time Man of Steel came out. It was like really appealed to me. But imagine if Zack Snyder made a new 52 suit, you know.
I could see him doing that, particularly like all the nanotech and stuff.
Yeah,
But so it was kind of funny, and I remember the other thing I remember. So I saw BVS in theaters, and I still liked
yeah.
it. I liked the Ultimate Cut a lot more, obviously.
The only
Then I
cut.
then I
I-
saw Justice League. All right, so
Uh,
let me be clear here. At first, I didn't think it was that bad. Let me clarify. At
yeah,
first, so I kept seeing people blast it. So I was wondering, okay, so what's going on with this thing? So then Zach posts like the first thing I saw was like a black and white picture of what Darkseid used to be. And I was like, Darkseid was in a Justice League movie and they cut it out. The more Zach posted about what was in the Snyder cut, the more I was like, how do we get that piece of crap? It was a defense. But yeah, the more I saw that, I was like, wait a second here. You mean we could have gotten that?
yeah. It's mind blowing that we didn't get Zack's original vision at the theater. We,
But the
yeah,
thing is,
Pika, yes,
yeah, we all thought it was good.
we all thought
And
it
then
was
what's
good
kind
at
of
the
funny?
time.
You know what I said when I got out? Yeah, hell yeah, dude. You know what's kind of funny? I was because I took my mom to see it too, and she also at the time didn't think it was that bad. So I'm telling my mom they better not release that Snyder cut, otherwise it's gonna make this version look like a freaking it's gonna make Joss Whedon look like a moron. Fast forward 3 years later, they
And
release
it,
it. So I
yep,
gotta tell you this: when I was
yep.
first off, so I was in classes all day the day the
Mhm.
Snyder cut came out. That was the longest day of classes ever. Because again, I was waiting 3 years for this freaking thing. So then, by the way, so it's kind of fun fact: the trailer for Zack Snyder's Justice League came out the day after my birthday. So it was like a late birthday present from Zach, and I was like, "Thank you." And that was the first time I had legit cried in a trailer. So I was like,
You
because
should
as
have.
a diehard fan of the Justice League, I was like, this is what I've wanted for so long.
I really wish you did a trailer reaction for that. I would have loved to
I
see that.
did. It's on the channel.
You crying on
I'm
the
not crying on
video?
the I'm not crying on the trailer, but because that was like the second or third time I had watched it. That was before I was live streaming and stuff, but I was still like doing like content. So the movie, so that whole day, two thoughts are coming through my head. I'm like, please, please, please get these classes done so I can go watch the movie. Because Lau was coming over too, and we were going to binge the entire movie. As we sat down to watch it, the thought coming through my head was, please don't suck, please don't suck, please don't suck. Because can you imagine if it were bad, how it would feel after waiting all those 3 years? Needless to say,
It's
within like 5 minutes, I was like, this is awesome.
this is Zack Snyder. How can you doubt Zack Snyder? Like,
But here's
come
the
on.
thing. There were two moments that sold it for me, and they were all like one after the other.
Go on.
So Steppenwolf's about to hit Cyborg with the axe.
Yeah.
And yes, thank you, Geek Defense. That's true. This was before I was so hardcore on Zack Snyder. So I had thought the Cyborg being like torn apart was in the Snyder cut because I'm like, it sounds like something Zack would do because it's that hardcore stuff. The axe comes down, clang. Lad and I, so you know how like people react in the theaters for Avengers Endgame when like On Your Left happens? That was us watching the Superman not impressed seeing the Snyder cut. And to see Superman beat the crap out, not only Superman, there's Justice League were juggling him back and forth, and I'm like, oh, that's so cool. Then the second moment, the Flash runs back in time, and visually, because Zach is obviously a visually stunning director, and when he like, it was like, what the when the Flash is running back in time, you're seeing the world like rebuild itself, and I was like, only one director could pull this off so well in the Vision, and Zack Snyder, because he showed the Speed Force as well, so it was like really dope.
I don't. It says Pika said I don't because I've never seen Endgame.
You've
We've got
never
a
seen
couple of.
Endgame?
Randall says, question: how would you guys handle DC Ultimate Universe?
Bring back the new 52 and make that the DC Ultimate
Yeah,
universe. You're done. Except start from except decanonize Futures End, DCU, and Convergence. Decanonize all those stories.
and Ruth says she wants me to read this out. Says Teladiaplays, please just read this out. I want to thank you both for being such amazing friends to me since I started my YouTube journey. You are both wonderful friends. I love you both very much.
Hey,
Thank you
love
very
you
much.
too.
We
We
love you
love you
too,
too,
Ruth.
Ruthie. That's
We,
great.
we love you too, Ruth. Thank you for being here, and thank you for being an amazing mod, amazing person, an amazing, you know, individual. Naji says hi. Hey, what's up, Naji? Uh, I have an ultimate DC universe pitch from Geek Defense Initiative. What is that pitch? We would love to hear that. We would love to hear
Yeah.
your We would love to hear your pitch.
Yeah.
GDI. That's your new nickname, GDI.
There you go.
We're giving you a nickname. Um, but I was gonna say, Jared, I was always wanted to ask you this, right?
What's up?
If they made a Superman game, would you cry?
Yeah, because I want a Superman game.
Would you cry to the extent you would make a trailer reaction and cry on a video?
If they did, well, I would do a trailer reaction for sure. I'm not sure if I would cry. If they had Super Wonder, I would start shedding a tear. That's for sure.
Oh wow. GDI says have the superheroes actually affect history.
That's interesting. Like, if superheroes like in World War II, what that would look like. That's actually really cool. I like that one.
Now I gotta ask you this. We know you're doing comics. We know you're basically making a comic of your own.
Mm-hmm.
Explain that to us.
All right. So I've had this story going on in my head for 10 years.
Yes.
And so originally it started off as a military novel. But then when I got into comics, obviously I was like, hey, I can turn this into comics and give it a visual medium. But when I was quickly realized that then I have to make sure the artist is really is like up to date on like what the uniforms look like, where the medals go, what the weapons look like. So I was like, why don't I just turn this into a freaking superhero story and be done with it? So I reformatted the story into Athena, Goddess of Thunder, and the whole process has been great. I already have an artist and an editor lined up, and they're all good.
Mhm.
And all in all, it's slow moving because I got a lot of stuff, a lot of life stuff that so sometimes gets in the way. I'm running the channel and that stuff, but all in all, I'm enjoying it. It's a fun process.
Nice, nice. Um, like I said, when it comes down to like you doing a comic, you showing off you showing off the artwork and that's been amazing. And then putting it in a video game, come on.
Oh yeah, because I recreated my character, my like Superman character in DC Online. Luckily, he had enough of a basic design. I don't want to say basic as an insult, but the point is like I could recreate it with all of the default items in DC Online. So I was like, okay, I'm doing that because that's what Nick from the Phoenix Press and I did. Our characters in DC Online are our comic characters.
Yeah. Like when we played DCU online together, you had Screecher and Athena having a go at each other.
Scooter and Atlas, and
Yeah,
Atlas is my Superman character. All my characters, that was the thing I wanted to do, are named after characters from Greek myth.
yeah, but mine obviously is based after the DCU.
The best Superman. So there you go.
Yeah, which is New 52. My design is based off the New 52, and I did that, and we made a Justice League together.
Hmm.
Um, Pika says, I also have I also have over a decade old Word document as an original story that's 200 pages long, could could be turned into a comic script after some new rewrites.
That's cool.
Could you could you give some advice to them? Like, what advice would you give people if they were going to start a comic?
I would be prepared to split it. Yeah, it could be 100 pages, but s- fine. Like try and make like try and do it in issues because that's gonna cost less, and try like finding natural breaks because otherwise, because I mean, if you can find an artist that will give you like a cheap rate for like 100 pages, that's great. But honestly, it works best to do it as an issue because that's what I'm doing, and because for cost reasons, that's like the best way to go, particularly if you're just starting out. Because later on, if it's popular and you release all your issues, you can later collect it in an omnibus.
Like, like what's interests me the most though, it's like I was thinking about making a comic, but then it was like I was like, no, it's too much of a hassle, right? You need you
My
need
whole
money,
thing, my whole thing is like at least make the script and get the story the way you want to say it first. Then you can worry about the other stuff. Just get it out of your
right?
system. That because that's what I did. I wrote a full-on like 80-page script for a 80 comic page script
Yeah.
for my thing, and then I said, "Here's chapter 1, here's chapter 2, here's chapter 3," because I wanted to get the story out first, and then at a later date, when I find an artist that has a decent rate, when I have like an editor and all that stuff, you do need an editor. When I have all those other things together, then I can invest.
Yes. So here's my thing. I wanted to ask you next is if let's say DC approached you and your comic does really well, would you take the offer for them doing a DC comic character? And if it's not,
I'm like, can I constantly insult Lois Lane? I'm like, let me do an elsewhere. Let me handle the new 52 Ultimate Universe. I will do that.
you would do it. Okay.
I would so do that. You kidding me? That'd be fun.
Okay. Now, any inspirations from like your artwork, like any inspirations like
Well, a lot of what I'm doing is like all the covers of each of the individual issues are inspired by actual DC covers. In fact, I have an entire folder of that. So a lot of this is going to be inspired by a lot. Okay, so here's this. All right, so here is I'm pulling up like one, and then the so here's like the old rough copy of the cover, and then here is the inspiration. All right, here we go.
let's see. Guys, this is exclusive.
So here is the Athena cover, and here's the inspiration.
Oh, so you took the inspirations from the Wonder Woman art.
Well, because my main character Athena is based on Wonder Woman, and a lot of it was okay, and a lot of like the tone and the level of gore. It's heavily inspired by the Snyder cut of Justice League. Like I'm gonna, yeah, keen-eyed readers will be able to see a lot of a lot of like Easter eggs to that type of stuff.
Yeah, it's like I really like Athena's art style.
Hmm.
Like that was the one thing I really liked about her art style. Now I wonder, will there be newer characters
Yeah.
coming in the future?
Well, I have an entire Justice League cast, and plus I have the plan for a 12 issue series split up into 3 different volumes.
Will
And
you? And here's the second part of my question:
Yeah.
will you ever get myself, Old Man Nick, and Heat Man J Heat in your comic?
Yeah, if you want to be, that's fine. I'm down for that.
Like how it'd be cool to have something like that. Would
Yeah.
you?
Yeah, absolutely. And so, volume 3, we get to see more of like Athena's homeworld, because in 1 we see it briefly, but in volume 3 is where you really get to flesh out her homeworld.
Okay, that's very cool and very very interesting. Now I'm eagerly awaiting. Do you know a release date for your comic?
Nope, I'm still in edits, which should take probably like a week or so. But then I gotta do the, but then it has to be drawn too.
Oh, who mentioned Super Sons?
Maybe because I was bashing Rebirth earlier.
Maybe, yeah, maybe that's why as soon as we mentioned Super Sons, Tevia pops up. And you know, guys, like I said before, member stream is happening next month, and we're gonna be doing a watch along for Lego Batman. So just remind you there.
Hmm.
And Jared is welcome on that because Jared is part of the channel. He's a co-host. Um,
Hmm.
but I was gonna say this, Jared. I wanted to ask you this for such a long time. Um, obviously, I know you're an Xbox guy.
Yeah.
What what made you an Xbox guy over a PlayStation guy?
It was kind of funny. I originally wanted a PlayStation, but what happened, because that was when the only Transformers game had ever come out was on, because I used to be really into Transformers. So then my dad got me Xbox, and I was like, "Oh, okay, I'll try this out." I had like the Bionicle game, I had a Star Trek game and stuff. Then Halo,
Hmm.
Halo and Gears of War was like the main thing, because then it was like, "Oh, that's cool. I can actually like it has all these really cool exclusives."
Yeah. Oh, that's really interesting. But I would have loved you to be a PlayStation guy. That's my take. If you
Sorry.
were
I'm
if
fine, dude.
if you were a PlayStation guy, dude, oh my God, you'd be talking about Spider-Man for days. Um, GDI says, I think I'm gonna start writing my
You
comic.
should. It's fun.
Tevia says, I didn't see that one mostly because I was busy with taking care of my dogs.
Okay, fair enough.
But what I was gonna say is that if you were a PlayStation guy, right, what would be your first game to pick up?
God of War.
God of War?
I either
Okay.
God of War or Spider Man. One of those two.
Okay. Now, obviously, we know there's a next Wolverine game coming out. Would that ever change your mind to pick up a PlayStation?
Nope. I'll watch the cutscenes.
Wow, you're dedicated to your
Yeah.
Xbox.
Yeah. Plus, it's gonna come out on PC eventually.
So, guys, this is an exclusive. Jared is a die-hard Xbox guy, so that's some fun fact for
Particularly
you
since
there.
most of Sony's exclusives that would be worth picking up a PlayStation for will just be on PC. So what do I care?
I mean, you're not wrong. You're not wrong there. Um, but I really wish you were a PlayStation guy. I really wish I could. I'm having visions, by the way. I'm having visions in my head right now of you playing a PlayStation
Yeah.
and you playing Spider-Man and me roasting you this time
Hmm.
and you doing the pancake. And so that is something I can just imagine. Um, now, favorite music. Tell us about your favorite music.
Mostly soundtracks actually. Junkie XL, any type of game music like Marty O'Donnell for Halo. Um, Probably just epic battle music, as a matter of fact. That's what I'm playing when like I'm in the gym or something like that, or like when I'm just chilling, making killer content.
Okay, okay, respect that. I respect that. Favorite TV show?
Oh, geez, that's a good question. Superhero or non-superhero?
Both.
Superhero, it's probably Titans. Non-superhero. There's so many. Probably the Terminal List about a Navy SEAL whose family is killed and he goes on a revenge. He basically turns into the Punisher.
Oh, now that's really, I'm really interesting. Why Titans, by the way?
Because first off, the costume is so cool. The costume design is so perfect. Andrew Hale's the best. Yeah, exactly. Um, the costumes look great. I like darker DC, and
Yeah,
it gives focus to a lot of like lesser known DC characters.
Tevia's got a question for you. Who's your favorite character in Marvel or DC or indie comics? Because for me, DC is,
Yeah, we know what your favorite DC and Marvel characters are, Devia.
but who's your favorite in Marvel or
Okay,
DC or indie?
Marvel. It's Eddie Brock slash Venom, and in terms of indie, it's either Invincible or Spawn.
Okay, and we know DC is Superman, so
Yeah, yeah. And by the way, to be clear, when I mean indie, I mean other than like Screecher or anyone like that,
yeah,
and
other
other
than
than my
Screecher,
characters,
yeah.
because that would be the obvious question. I mean,
That'd be the
answer.
obvious. Yeah, that'd be the obvious answer. Yeah. Um, but I was gonna ask. I also want to ask you this: if they made an Invincible game,
They do. It's on
uh,
iOS.
no, 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 a console-based game,
Hmm.
what would be the story you would take from any of the comics that they've done?
The last one, the Veltramite War, because I feel like you don't really need to like set that up that much, and it could be very epic for a video game.
Nice. That's a very interesting answer. Uh, GDI said, Jared, you should read Tom Clancy's Without Remorse, The Punisher versus American Gangster. Yes,
I saw
it's
the movie
novel.
on that. It looked really good. Uh, yeah, I'll definitely check that out. Definitely check that out. But
So,
here's a little bit of things. Do you guys want to know where my hatred of Lois Lane started?
Rebirth.
No, not really. It was from the movies. Superman
What
Returns
movie?
started it because I'm like, you are very abrasive and mean. The DCAU didn't help. The comics obviously didn't help. And really, it was because I noticed that the minute that she starts like telling Wonder Woman, I really don't like you. And I'm like, you're really rude. So I was like, at this point, I'm just like, no, and Glow Defense, she's not mean, she's sarcastic. Actually, read what she says because she legit will tell Wonder Woman, I don't like you. And I'm like, really? You're not that polite. And the other thing is like when you actually look at the character, and I'm like, they make her out to be this fantastic reporter, yet she couldn't point out and realize that Clark was Superman. In which version? Any version.
Oh,
And
okay.
Tavia, that happened. I think that happened in a. There was a storyline. No, it wasn't Silver Age. It was like more a modern age. It was when like I think Lois Lane was following around Wonder Woman for a day. She doesn't BVS. Well, because in Man of Steel, this is why movie Lois was the only one I liked because they actually had her figure it out because she was a better reporter then. In the comics, she's a moron.
Exactly. Exactly. So,
He could not make it any easier for people to guess he's Superman.
yeah. GTI says he only reads post-crisis.
Mm-hmm. You should try out the new 52. It's pretty good.
Tevia says, I only read post-crisis and rebirth Lois Lane. New
Well,
52 I avoid. We know that for a
we
reason,
know
Tevia.
why. We know why.
We know why, Tevia. You kind of make it obvious every stream.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Randall says, my hatred for Lois Lane comes from writing from taking Diana's lines and giving them to Lois.
But you know what's really funny? When I made that first anti Lois Lane video, it's kind of funny. The number one comment I got was, "Thank God someone said it." And that really was an eye opener for me because I was like, I didn't know so many people didn't like Lois. but she can't figure out because Superman fans are a bunch of man children that fuse any new takes on the character. That is true, though. That is true. That they definitely can't take any new takes on the character. That is for sure.
Pika says, by the way, I looked up that Siegel and Schuster wanted Lois to learn Superman is Clark back in the 40s, but DC stopped them.
And yet she's like this character that everyone thinks that like is the greatest reporter. So I've heard people say that she is the first lady of comics and she is the most important character in all of DC comics. And I'm like, no, no, no. The other thing, what really annoys me is when DC writers and creators will say, you should like this. And I'm like, excuse me, I'm a paying customer. You don't get to tell me what I should like. You should be catering to what the customer wants. DC is not a charity. It's a business.
So Xavier's asking a question. Speaking of characters you hate, remind me of any other characters you don't like from either DC or Marvel or indie comics.
Marvel, it's either Captain Marvel or Namor. Both of them, I think, should be killed off. And in terms of indie, as far as I know, I'm not as invested in the indie scene to really have a character I hate. In terms of DC, it's anything created by Bendis. That's pretty obvious. And pretty much that character Galaxia from the recent Hawkgirl comics, I really hate.
And we don't like Peter J. Zamasi, I'm afraid.
Yeah, because again, and this was another thing that I noticed, that he was very like aggressive towards the Super Wonder fans. He and him and Jurgens both were like very anti it. They called it fanboy, PORN. That's what they called Super Wonder. And then it's like it's like here's the thing. It's like Tomasi would block people just for liking Super Wonder. And then he would argue with them and like attack them just for doing that. And I'm like, then you are a very unprofessional creator.
Pika says DC pretty much unintentionally made Lois look bad by that mandate that she shouldn't be allowed to know Clark Superman until the 1990s happened.
And you know what's kind of funny, Taladia, is that in the 90s they did the wedding. They instantly regretted it because that limits the stories that you can tell. And you know what was one of the express purposes of the New 52, according to Dan DiDio, former publisher of DC?
Right.
The reasoning was, one of the reasons was to get rid of the marriage.
Wow.
I figured this, if you look at that Super Wonder Legacy episode, this is me going, oh my God, because it's like Britt and I are like, we've been waiting so long to hear this from one of the heads of DC.
GDI says, true, thank God for the 1990s.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Clovis marriage was awesome. According to sales, it wasn't awesome. So I go by a lot of what I do by sales, because that's the metric that DC should prioritize. Because guess what? Again, it's a business. It's not a charity. If you want the stuff to last, you have to buy the books. And Tevia, we've said this many times, the New 52 didn't fail.
So we've shown you proof of the sale numbers. Why do you think Superboy, aka not the Superman we know, which is John Kent, sucks? That is a fact. John Kent is redundant. Deal with it. Anyway, Jared, I wanted to ask you this, a couple of final questions before we wrap up and everything. And
sure.
I know because I know you want to eat food, and then we gotta do a movie night.
Catwoman. God, that movie's horrible.
Yeah. So oh, hold on. Randy's got a good thing.
Karma came back to Tomasi when they hired Bendis to undermine. Yeah, you know what's kind of funny? At that point, since he took Charles Sewell's work and tanked it, and if you want to know the full story about that, check out Super Wonder Legacy.
And in the description, there is Jared's channel, so make sure you do go check it out there.
So what had happened was, so he came in, and like a lot of Super Wonder fans were like, hey, let's try this out. Let's see what happens. Because he could do some great stuff. but he completely undermined it, introduced drama for no reason, for drama's sake, because he said if there's no drama, there's no story. But he introduced drama. Like, here's an example, Taladia,
Mhm.
because I know it's because Britt and I recently covered that the Tomasi arc of Superman Wonder Woman. So his whole thing. So in the new 52, Wonder Woman became the god of war, which was a pretty dope storyline, all that stuff. So in the first volume of Superman Wonder Woman, at the end, Clark knows, and he's like, okay, you know what? I trust you. In the Tomasi arc, he made it out like Clark was like, why didn't you tell me? I can't believe this. He was so pissy about it. And I'm like, literally, this is how I know that he didn't write it. That's how I know he didn't read the previous issues, because if he had, he would have seen they were pretty explicit about it. Clark was fine for her being the god of war because he trusted her. Yeah, and here's the thing: when they decanonized Super Wonder for Rebirth in the Superman Reborn storyline, Tomasi said that's the reason for it. But here's the funny part: are you ready for this? So in Superman Reborn, they decanonized the Super Wonder relationship. So I was like, okay, fine. You know what? Screw you guys. I'm reading the Wonder Woman book and they recanonized it. Because that's the thing. The Wonder Woman group wants Wonder Woman with Superman. The Superman group wants Superman only with Lois Lane, and it's existed since the
Lois Lane.
90s. This is like the early 80s. Because if you notice, in the Perez run of Wonder Woman, he had Wonder Woman falling in love with Superman and going on a date with him. In the Superman book, they show the date and it gets super awkward, and then they decide not to date. So they took what Perez was setting up and royally crapped on it.
Yes. Apparently Tevia says, wait, I didn't know they
Yeah,
recanonized.
it was the biggest surprise ever, because actually I'm reading this book. It was a Wonder Woman book by Steve Orlando. I'm flipping through it, and they're doing like a flashback of when Wonder Woman put her duty before her relationships. So it's Steve Trevor, who no one cares about. And then literally the next panel, she's kissing Superman. And
Yep.
and Superman has the collar, so it's a very specific version of Superman. So I'm like, wait a second, no one's talking to each other.
This is crazy. I'm learning a lot. So I've got two more questions before we wrap up.
Yeah, let's go.
My final question is about first of two questions. Is that if you had the option to make a Superman game, what run would you use to adapt into a video game?
Grant Morrison, because you can show the origin of Superman, fight Brainiac, and then you can introduce each character slowly and methodically in there. And Pika, he actually says, I'm going to be on my this in this debate and say that Superman Reborn could have kept the Super Wonder ship as the new 52, having been with Diana before he merged with the post-crisis. Well, they could have actually not merged and just kept two Supermen. That's what Jay Heat and I did with the New Direction verse. The problem with Lois and Steve Trevor is that the writers aren't allowed to. Yeah, exactly. But it's kind of funny. When I got back into comics, that was like a year or so after they broke up. I'm checking. Let's see what Wonder Woman's doing. She broke up with Steve Trevor, and he did it for the stupidest reasons. So Steve is a Navy SEAL in this universe, and the stupid part is, okay, his reasoning for breaking up with Wonder Woman is that he didn't think, because he was upset that she's like gone a lot as a member of the Justice League. That's more or less the reasoning. And I'm like, you're a Navy SEAL. If anyone understands what it's like to be away from home a long time on a deployment, it should be you. It should be you. So I'm like, at that point, that's when I really started my hatred for Steve Trevor, because I'm like, you're an idiot. Plus, in the new 52, he was a stalker.
Yeah, definitely. Now, my second question and final question is I got a question from Tevia before I ask my question. Question, speaking of DC or Marvel, that reminds me, any option for the whole situation, Mary Jane and writers keeping her apart from Spider-Man?
Well, I think with the Ultimate Comics selling so well, I think that it's a possibility that they could decide, okay, you know what, this is working. Let's bring this into the main continuity.
Yeah.
Which that's what it's because the rumor is, here's the rumor for you about the DC Ultimate Universe. The rumor is if the Ultimate Universe is successful, they may end the main universe and make the Ultimate Universe the main one. That's why I'm like, put Superman with Wonder Woman in the Ultimate Universe, because for what we know, guess what? There you go. Because then you can get Super Wonder in the main continuity again. Which, by the way,
Uh,
that book sold ridiculously well. It started out as a marketing stunt, but then it like sold really well. Unintentional care, only a few damages suffered. Yeah, exactly.
and if, all right. So my final question, because if you got any final questions you want to ask Jared, put them in the chat because I'm gonna ask my final question now. So my final question to you, Jared, is if you had the option to make your very own Batman and Superman story, what would it be, and what like villains would you use in those stories?
Can I change that to a Trinity story?
Of course, yes.
Yeah, so I've thought about this for a while on how I would handle it, because that would be it's either Superman, Wonder Woman, or Trinity would be the books I would write. For Trinity, what I would do is have it where it would take place early in their career. Obviously, it would end with Superman being with Wonder Woman, and Superman is struggling with this because he's like, because one of the things Superman struggles with is his like self-image, because he sees himself as like as a farm boy who doesn't deserve Diana, so he works on that. So throughout the storyline, I would have like maybe either Lex Luthor or like even they actually had a good idea in the Rebirth Trinity where they had Cersei, I think it was Zod, and Ra's al Ghul team up, and that's what I would do. Have like each of the Trinity members villains, and have them fight, and then ultimately it would end in Superman and Wonder Woman being together.
Nice, nice. Tevia is asking one question, then we're gonna wrap up.
The
Uh,
rumor is that that's supposed to happen like next year, I think,
okay.
as far as I know.
Tevia's. Oh my God. Tevia's asking this final question. With the new 52 going to the DCU era after Convergence, I'm curious, how would you fix your DCU era as a whole and
Easy,
make it a
not do it.
easy? Yeah, that's a
Or
straightforward
make that
answer.
or make all that stuff Black Label and just say, okay, all that stuff is like not canon. Just do it over there. But and not do it is my main answer, because that Convergence and Future's End is why people have a negative opinion of the new 52. That's it.
Okay. Now, we're gonna do outro. Jared, let them know what you're coming up on your channel. Thank you very much for doing this interview with me, but
Anytime.
uh let them know what you got coming up on your channel. Let them know the people about your channel and all that good stuff.
Mm-hmm. In terms of other than that, you made some great points, Pika. So in terms of like where you can find me at Comics League on YouTube, obviously, Comics League JT on Twitter, Comics League 2020 on Instagram, where I promote all the stuff. I occasionally post anti-Lois Lane memes because it's fun. And you can also join my Discord at Comics League, and you can also check out the website at comicsleague.com, where you can find an archive of all my content. And in terms of like what's coming on the channel, Britt and I are going to be examining the Power and Glory arc of Justice League for Brian Hitch's new 52 run, and
All right.
how it would have led to Superman and Wonder Woman having a kid. There you go. In terms
Okay.
of commentary, I'm still working out exactly what I want to do for that. In terms of like Under Two Capes, again, I'm still thinking about what I want to do for an episode. Movie night next week is going to be, we're going to do a live watch party Friday night for Rebel Moon Part 2. That's going to be dope as hell. And in terms of movie night next week, the movie night after that is going to be, we're thinking Generation X, but we'll see. Oh, and on Thursday, I'll be continuing my Arkham Knight playthrough.
Okay, cool, cool. As for me, guys, you guys know I have got a Superman game video coming up on my channel that will be happening tomorrow as a video format. Firstly, it'll go out for the members for 12 hours. So 12 hours, the members that who have memberships, they will get to see the video early. Um, Pika says, "Ah, I need to see Netflix. A way to see Rebel Moon without Netflix. No, you need Netflix. Netflix is the way to go."
Mhm.
But yeah, so the Superman game video that is going to be popped. First is going to be for members on Sunday. I'm going to post it up. Members get it up first for 12 hours, and then 12 hours later, I'll be doing it for the public audience. And then next week, I'll be doing Batgirl with Jared and with Little Movie Perp, aka Baby
Baby
Hands,
hands.
and we're going to be talking about New 52 issue 1. So we'll
Mhm.
be talking about that. Um, Bummer. Tevia, you don't need to worry. I mean, it's still going to come out to the
No,
public.
he's referring to this.
Oh, okay.
Hey,
And
perp.
baby, yeah, yeah, that's you. Yes, that's you. Yes, we're going to be doing a stream with you next week, and I also will be doing a live stream for the Superman game, talking about it, having if you guys got any questions for me about that in regards to the tweets and whatnot, we can talk about it in like a live discussion and whatnot next week. And so that is the plan for that. And also, like Jared says, I'll be on his stuff for Batman Arkham. And we're gonna see him pancake again because we can't wait to see that.
You should
Uh,
talk, sir. You should talk.
hey, you're in the Batmobile. You're the one who pancake in the car. But anyway, but yeah, this has been a fun, exciting stream.
Thank you for
We
having me.
Yep, no problem at all. This has been great just to get an insight into your channel. Guys, if you aren't following Jared, there's a link to his Twitter and to his YouTube channel in the description, alongside my stuff. And you guys, if you guys do want to become a member, membership from 9.99 to 4.99, there's a join button right there, and you could become a member like Pika and do membership. Become members panels, members live videos, sorry, members only videos, members streams, and all that good stuff. Members movie nights and all this stuff. There's all that good cool stuff, and even members game night where we're going to be doing members come on and play games with us. So there's all this stuff. But anyway, that being said, I've been your host Teladiaplays. That has been Jared from Comics League. We have we hope you have enjoyed today's stream. Jared, you always, as always, get to say the final say of the stream. Take it
Lois
away.
Lane is Lois Lane. She belongs to General Zod's Zoas for life.
All right. And on that note, we're out of here. Peace.